Hey, good. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Hey, good evening. It's still 6:30 on Thursday, October 6th. We'll open up the Murray City Planning Commission meeting. With us, we have Commissioner Richards, Commissioner Patterson, we have Commissioner Ney, we have Vice Chair Pearson, and we have Commissioner Hacker as well as myself, Jeremy Lowry. Want to welcome everyone who's come. Would like to. Sorry, my apologies. Commissioner Makevich is excused. We'd like to ask you to please silence any cell phones if you have them. If you receive a phone call and you need to take it, we'd ask you to take it out in the hall. We're going to. I'll go through and do a really quick review of our agenda. We'll go through our business items, which will approve our minutes of the previous meeting and disclose any conflicts of interest. Go through any findings of fact. We have a site plan review for Morgan Jewelers, a subdivision review for the Point at 53rd, and a general plan zone amendment map amendment for Paul Henderson, number 6. During that time, the format that we'll follow, the staff will make a presentation. We'll have any comment or questions from the commission to staff. At that point, the applicant will be welcome to come and make any points that they have. If you're once they're done, we'll open it for public comment. If you're an applicant or if you have public comment, we'd ask you to please come and make it at the podium here on the north wall here. For public comment, we'd actually keep it to about 3 or 4 minutes. Please, when you come up, speak into the microphone. The meeting is being recorded. Even if it sounds like it's not picking up on the PA system, that's how they're hearing you online, and that's how it's being recorded. So we'd ask you to please do that. So at this point, we're going to go through our business items, and in terms of the minutes that we don't have any minutes, so we won't worry about that. I'll ask the commission. We've reviewed the business in front of us. Are there any conflicts of interest?
No.
Okay, seeing none. Okay, beyond that, we in our pre-meeting we reviewed the findings of fact for a few different items. One was for BD Paris LLC. Has everyone had a chance to review that?
Yes.
Are there any changes? Okay. Do we have a motion was there a motion? Was that there were two? Oh, my bad. Sorry, my bad. And also Willowwood Professional Pleasure. What's that? We'll do them there. And also, has everyone reviewed Willowwood Professional Plaza?
Yes.
Any comments or discrepancies? Okay. We'll entertain a motion for both BD Paris LLC and Willowwood Professional Plaza if there is one.
I'll make a motion that we approve the findings of fact for BD Paris LLC and Willowwood Professional Plaza.
Thank you. We have a motion that's made by Commissioner Pearson to approve the findings of fact for BD Paris LLC and Willowwood Professional Plaza. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been seconded by Commissioner Hackert. We'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, findings of fact have been approved. With that, we will move into our agenda items. Our first agenda item is, I should say, agenda item number 4 is Morgan Jewelers. Susan Nixon is presenting.
Thank you. Yes, this application was submitted from Leighton Davis Architects on behalf of Morgan Jewelers for a new retail and office building at 6102 South. Any new buildings in the CD commercial zone require Planning Commission architectural and site plan review. This is a permitted use, otherwise it normally would not be have to come to the Planning Commission for approval. So the property is on the southwest corner of 6100 South and State Street. It is currently 2 parcels. The parcels have been vacant for some time. It's the former Firestone Auto Care property. Again, it's in our commercial zone. This property had some obstacles, a little bit unique to it. And those photos here, the one shows the non-conforming, non-compliant pole sign that will need to be removed. And I'm sure they'll replace it with a monument sign later, but that's not part of this application. And you can see they're ready to go, gung-ho, got the equipment out there on the site. Another obstacle with this property, on the west side of the property, are some overhead power lines that are Murray City power lines. They required that they have a 15-foot separation, vertical and horizontal separation from any structure. Normally the CD zone, you have a 20-foot front setback, and typically the buildings are pushed a little further back. But in this case, it made it a little difficult to meet those requirements. The building to the south, which is in the photo here on the right, is the Golf Galaxy building, and it has about a 7 to 8 foot setback. So the architect applied for a variance for the front setback to be more consistent with the existing buildings to the north and south, and also in order to meet that buildable area given the constraints with the power lines to the west. Also, excuse me, also in March, they applied for the variance for the front setback, and it was approved by the excuse me, hearing officer for 10-foot front setback rather than the 20-foot front setback. The first 10 feet or the 10-foot setback would consist only of landscaping. So in February or March of this year, the architect and engineer met with UDOT to discuss access off of State Street. The existing accesses were close to the intersection and were really wide. And anytime there's a new proposal, UDOT likes to make changes. So after meeting with them, UDOT indicated that the drive aisle needed to move further to the south. And similarly, on 6100 South, the city engineer, 6100 South is controlled by Murray. The Murray city engineer requested that the drive aisle be pushed further to the west, farther away from the intersection for safety. So given those constraints that they had, it pushed, again, the building further to the intersection and lent itself really well for the L-shaped parking as shown on this site plan. And I've just indicated the front setback variance that was granted for both front of 6100 South and State Street. So this building is replacing their previous retail store that used to be at the mall, Fashion Place Mall pad site. They are planning to have a retail store on the main floor and then some office space, and then the second floor will be all corporate offices. So they're moving their location to Murray. And here are some architectural elevations. They are part of the review for the Planning Commission is the architecture of the project, and they are planning to have black tile and gray glazing and then a silver metal to it. And the architects here, if you have any other more detailed questions, I'm sure they can answer it. Let me go back to the site plan here. So based on the square footage of the building, the gross is about just over 10,000. Net is 7,849, which is, again, comprised of retail and office. And the ratio for those require a total of 35 parking stalls, and they show 41, 2 ADA stalls. I thought I'd mentioned there was only one, but they have 2, and they are required to have 2. So they more than meet the parking requirements for the site. And I'm going to go to, okay, as far as the height, in the CD zone, they are allowed a 35 maximum height when it's within 100 feet of a residential zone. And this is 150 plus feet from a residential zone. The building actually is only 31 feet high, but with the parapet wall or to shield the mechanical on top, that is a 37-foot height. So again, it meets the height limitations. The landscaping that is proposed, minimum is in the CD zone is required of 10%, and they are providing 13.5, 13.5. They will need to just plant one more tree on the frontage of both 6100 South and State. They have 2 shown, and they'll need to have 3 based on the linear feet of 89 feet. And they more than exceed the shrubs required for the 5-gallon, 1-gallon. And let's see if one of the conditions, they will need to consolidate the 2 parcels, and the engineer is already on top of that, so they'll get that done. They'll have to do that before they submit for a building permit. And that would just be done administratively, since it's just meets and bounds. So that will not need to come back to Planning Commission. I did mail out 21 notices to the surrounding residents and business owners. I did hear from the one resident to the southwest, and she was happy and to see something be constructed there, and was thrilled with the plans. And then the owner of the Tom Knox store across the street was also thrilled and wants to welcome y'all to the neighborhood. So, so nothing but good input. And I think that is it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions from the commission for Susan? Great, thank you so much. Is the applicant here? Would you like to come and make some comments? Great. Please, when you come, state your name and your address.
Gladly. Chris Layton, principal architect with Layton Davis Architects. I wanted to give you my 606 East 4350 South address in Murray, where I was born, but currently 3200 East, 3900 South, Holiday, Utah. It's been a pleasure to work with your city on this project. We think it's very appropriate for the site. On behalf of the Morgan family and their many employees, they're very excited to relocate their headquarters from Salt Lake City here in Murray. So we think it'll be a great addition to that area. I must say where we work with so many different municipalities, the planning staff here is exceptional. So
we agree.
And certainly Susan covered everything, and I don't need to be redundant, but we're grateful for the opportunity to create this building, which we hope is a fine addition to Murray City.
Have you had a chance to review the 10 conditions?
I have.
Will you be able to comply with them?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the commission for the applicant, the representative?
We hope so. We think so.
Well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
At this point, we'll open it up for any public comment. Zach or Susan, if you don't mind letting us know if anything's come in electronically, that would be great as well. Okay. So there's no public comment that's come through via email. Seeing no public comment, I think we can safely close the public comment section of this project, this application. Is there any discussion amongst the commission concerning this application? Okay, I think we can entertain a motion if there is one.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. Prior to the motion, this is great. This will be a great addition to Murray City, so thank you. Make a motion that the Planning Commission grant architectural and site plan approval for the proposed Morgan Jewelers retail store and corporate office building for the property addressed 6102 South State Street, subject to the 10 conditions listed.
Great. We have a motion made by Commissioner Hacker. The Planning Commission grant architectural and site plan approval for the proposed Morgan Jewelers retail store and corporate office building for the property addressed at 6102 South State Street. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Pearson. Susan, will you do a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ney,
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
and Chair Lowry.
Yes. Okay, the motion has passed. We really appreciate you coming down and going through this with us, and appreciate your kind words for our staff. We agree they're great. Welcome to Murray, and please express our warm welcome. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on now to item number 5, which is a subdivision review for the point at 53rd. Zach is making the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate it. So this is a request from the Howland Group to amend the point at 53rd subdivision located at 5177 and 5217 South State Street. So let's try that again. Okay. 5217 is this large lot here. And then 5177 is this relatively small lot located here. This looks like it's part of the subdivision amendment, but it does not. It's just surrounding the existing lot 1 that's in there. So that one is not affected. This is in the CMU zone. We have a color, but for some reason it's not popping up on our maps. So if you're really upset that there's no color there, I'm sorry, but it's purple. So there you go. So this is the existing point at 53rd subdivision. As you can see, lot 1 is here, pretty gargantuan lot. Lot 4 is here. The proposal is to eliminate lot 4 and prepare a new lot 101, which would be just the big parcel. And then they are proposing a new lot 201, which encompasses the office building. The purpose of doing that is that they would like to, at some point down the road, pretty quickly, they would like to turn the office building into office condominiums. So not residential at this point, just office condominiums. Let's see. So there's a photo there of what they're planning to do. That's really what lot 201 is going to be, is just encompassing that entire building. The rest will remain either in lot 101, lot 2, or lot 3. So a couple things that I think I mentioned in the staff report is that during the recording process for the condominium subdivision, they will have to provide parking agreements, because this lot 201 currently, as you can see with the site plan, this doesn't have any parking attached to it. So we will require that they provide some sort of parking agreement before we'll take an application forward and get that approved. So those are really the biggest things. It's not very much to it. So we are recommending that the Planning Commission grant the approval for amending lots 1 and 4 of the point at 53rd subdivision, and grant preliminary and final subdivision approval for the creation of lot 201 on the properties located at 5177 and 5217 South State Street. Any questions for me?
I just have one question.
Sure.
Can you explain, so the parking agreement would be an agreement between these new condominium owners and the property owner that owns a parking lot they'd be parking in.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work in perpetuity forever?
It's recorded against the properties. So it would be recorded against Mr. Howland's, Gary Howland, who is the property owner of the proposed lot 101. It would be recorded on his that how I want it to see it written. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say how it shall be written, but what I would prefer is that each unit is designated a certain number of stalls, and I'm working with the Howlands to kind of make sure that that's taken care of.
I see. So if that property was ever sold, they would still have that requirement to maintain those parking stalls for the lot 201.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Great question. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Zach. Very
Thank
well
you.
done. Is the applicant here? Would you actually come in and say a few words, and please state your name and address, and let us know if you had a chance to review the 7 conditions and if you can comply with them.
Yeah, so my name is Chris Johnson, and address is 14773 Bolden Flowers Lane out in Bluffdale. So really the only comments I had, Zach has been great to work with, and he pretty much said everything. And with respect to the project, this condo conversion is really an aggregate part of an overall effort to revitalize and modernize that point at 53rd, which I know you guys are aware of, which we're working towards, and will be forthcoming very shortly on some additional submissions and things like that. In terms of the parking, that was a great question. I have been working with the attorneys on this, and the way that we are writing it is exactly how Zach answered it. It will be recorded against those, and those commitments will run with the land, so to speak. So if they're ever sold, those will continue to run with the transfer of that property with that. So they will be maintained in perpetuity. So other than that, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys on this, and we look forward to not only this, but the future ones. So I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Have you had a chance to review the 7 conditions?
I have.
Can you comply with them?
We will. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you for coming down.
You bet.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Zach, I don't believe we received any public comment previously on this. We'll open it up at this point for public comment. And if you don't mind checking the email, see if anything came in via email, that'd be great. Okay, so no public comment that has come in electronically. There wasn't any provided before the meeting, and seeing no public comment, I think we can safely close the public comment section of this application as well. Is there any discussion amongst the commission concerning this application? Okay, seeing none, we can entertain a motion if there is one. Great.
Make a motion that the Planning Commission grant approval amending lots number 1 and number 4 of the Point at 53rd subdivision, and preliminary and final subdivision approval for the creation of lot 201 on the properties located at 5177 and 5217 South State Street, subject to the following 7 conditions.
Great. So we have a motion made by Commissioner Richards that the Planning Commission grant approval amending lots 1 and 4 of the Point at 53rd subdivision and preliminary and final subdivision approval for the creation of lot 201 on the properties located at 5177 and 5217 South State Street, subject to the 7 conditions. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Ney. Zach, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Yeah, let me. Okay, so Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Ney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
and Chair Lowry.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, the motion is passed. And at this point, thank you very much for coming down. We're excited to see what you guys have planned. Thanks a ton. Okay, we will move on at this point to item number 6, which is Paul Henderson. And Zach, I believe you are presenting this general plan and zone map amendment.
Yes, I am. Thank you. So this is located at 97 West Winchester Street. So right here next to, just west of the freeway, of the 215 freeway, located on Winchester Street and Maelstrom Lane. Let's see. Currently, it is in the R18 zone, along with the properties to the west and to the east of it. I will say that as of Tuesday, this property was rezoned to RNB, so it is now that nice coral color. So I don't know what color that is, but it's a color. So yeah, the request is to go from R18 to RNB. That does require a general plan change from the current low density residential designation to the residential business designation. The residential business designation only allows for the RNB zone. There are no other associated zones. So when it's changed on the future land use map, it's just to RNB. So it does coincide and work together to accomplish that. And we, as staff, feel that this is a natural expansion of the RNB designation, especially with the Fashion Place West area. I think that this is a good transition for that. Seth did take some photos for me before. He put these together. This is the existing home on the lot. This is looking west. You can see here the current office condos, a single family residence over here. And then this is looking east towards Fashion Place and I-215 here. I kind of spoke to this a little bit. The future land use designations, residential business only allows for RMB. The existing low density residential does have 6 corresponding zones, all from agriculture all the way up to low density 2-family residential. Zoning regulations, this is the more important aspect of that. So the R18 existing zone for, sorry, looks a little weird. So conditional uses, PUDs and subdivisions, in the R18 is pretty much just limited to single family zoning. So single family homes. There are conditional uses to allow for like schools, utilities, things like that. But we don't get those very often. The R&B allows for small office uses such as dentist's office, small medical offices, much like what those office condos are used as currently, just on a smaller scale. And it's a design heavy zone, so there are a lot of architectural standards that need to be met. The standard height for a building in the RMB zone is only 20 feet, unless the Planning Commission grants up to 30 feet. And that is actually less than what a single family home is allowed to be built at 35 feet. So they are naturally just shorter buildings. I think we have something in there that caveats that it has to be a pitched roof. It does have to look residential in nature when you're developing any office in this area. I kind of went over that a little bit here. So structure height 35, front yard setbacks. It does have a little bit less of a setback. We like to see those kind of pushed up a little bit closer to the street and provide parking closer into the back, so that especially where those residential properties typically end up being is behind these properties. So this gives it a little bit of a buffer away from the office use. Rear yard 20-foot setback. Side yards are 8 minimum. And then let's see, the parking for a single family home is 2 spaces per single family home. For the R&B, it's typically, depends on the use, but it's typically 1 stall per 200 square feet of net office area. So with that, we are recommending that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for both the general plan amendment and the zoning map amendment. Questions I can answer?
Any questions for Zach from the commission?
I have a couple.
Sure.
Can we go back to the future land use map?
Yes.
We talk about a natural progression of the expansion of the residential neighborhood business. Do you see a hard line anywhere along here?
Yes, I do. Thank you for bringing that up. So typically, staff's opinion is that we wouldn't really support anything that isn't touching on Winchester. That's one of the reasons why we decided that this could be supported. It touches on Winchester largely right here on this corner. Once you really get fully onto Maelstrom Lane, I don't think we would support R&B at that point. Not until we do a lot more research in this area. So,
okay. And then how does this fit with the small area plan that was done for Fashion Place?
Yeah, so it does. This actually fits more with the 2017 general plan. There are things that may come as part of the Fashion Place West small area plan. This is an easy transition over to commercial, which Winchester is large from pretty much Cottonwood Street to Fashion Place is starting to convert to, well, it almost all is commercial. And so that is good. It does provide that kind of lower scale. I would say that later on it'll feel a little bit more involved with the Fashion Place West small area plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Great, thank you. Appreciate it very much, Zach, for that. Is the applicant present? Great. We'd love for you to come up and chat with the group. Please remember to say your name and your address.
My name's Paul Henderson. My address is 1199 Midge Drive in Bluffdale. I don't know what you want me to say.
If you have any comments about your application, you'd like us that would be pertinent to us.
No, I before I bought the house, I called the city to see if I could put my office there, and they said it's on Winchester. Sure, you can. But then when I went in and I talked to Susan Fadage, we got out the magnifying glass, and she was like, "You're not going to believe this. It's the only one on Winchester that's not." So we went through it, and we talked about all the things that are going to have to happen to bring it up to code, commercial code, and I'm getting bids and plans on that, but haven't made any moves yet because I'm waiting on approval.
Great. Any questions for the applicant from the commission?
Sure. What kind of business are you running?
It's a property management business, residential property management.
Okay. We appreciate you being here. I think that if there's nothing else, we'll open for public comment. Thanks so much. So at this point, we're going to open for public comment. If there's anyone here that would like to come up, please come up and state your name and your address, and please try to keep your comments to 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, I'm Bart Burton. I live at 87 West Winchester, right next door. And I just ask that we don't change our zoning. Once it starts, it never stops. I've seen it in so many places, and I would just really like to keep our place a neighborhood. We like it there. You start letting offices, the next thing you know, there's a dental office. Next thing you know, they're going to change the zoning to something else. And what I heard from there, from the mall project, it may anyway. So, but I would ask that you don't, and just let our neighborhoods be. Thanks.
Thank you for coming down, Mr. Barton. We appreciate your comments. Zach, have we received any comments via email?
Yes,
Great.
we did, actually. So this is from Elizabeth Brimley. She doesn't give her address. She states, what type of business is anticipated? What business hours are planned? What effect will it have on the neighborhood? Will there be more traffic or more people or more vagrants, etc.?
Great.
There you go.
We did receive a comment that came via email. There's a couple. They had 2 concerns. I think it may not be a bad idea to read it into the record if you don't mind, Zach, and address those.
It's actually in the record.
It's in the record. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it's in the record as
That's
part
true.
of the staff.
Oh, perfect.
report.
Then that's
Yeah.
great. Well, I think that there's a couple of questions I would love to address from the email that came in. The first, they talk about the first concern is the property is located directly across from city property that is currently a gravel open space. I think it'd be good to clarify who actually owns that.
Yes, I would be happy to address that, but do you want to close the public hearing first?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
So are there any additional public comments? Okay, I think we can close it then. Great. Let's do that.
Yes, now I would be happy to. So that actually, we believe, and we will do more research as it gets tomorrow, technically, and make sure that it is not city property. I do believe that this would be UDOT property, which is the Utah Department of Transportation, which is a state-owned entity, a state entity. So we will look into that a little bit more, and we will either contact the state or I will contact somebody in the city to get that cleaned up. So
Sounds
that's
great.
for sure.
Great. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And then I will address Ms. Brimley's questions as well. The type of business anticipated, we kind of talked about that. He addressed that. Business hours planned. I know that there are restrictions in the RMB zone that you are only allowed to operate between certain hours. I apologize, I don't know those hours. I think it's only until like 7 p.m. or something like that. It's not very late. So you can't have businesses running late in the RNB zone. Then let's see, what effect will it have on the neighborhood? This is a transitionary zone. We believe that this is a good spot for these kind of high traffic streets, such as Winchester, and separates and buffers the single family residential typically from that. And then let's see. Will it be more traffic or more people or more vagrants? I can't answer the more people or more vagrants. Traffic, again, I can't really speak to that during a zone change at this point. We don't have a project in front of us. Just the nature of changing the zone doesn't mean that traffic will increase. So, any other questions I can answer at this point?
I have one more. I just ask it for the public more than anything.
Sure.
Are there other examples of pieces of property that were not attached to other zones when the general plan was developed? Single pieces of property that were missed throughout the city?
Definitely. There were a number of properties. We look at general plan amendments quite often, where we typically have looked, and because 2017 was, that's when it was adopted. Technically, all the data for this is probably closer to 6 or 7 years old, and things change in 6 or 7 years. And we have been looking at the general plan, and we entertain things when they seem appropriate, when we see a change in the neighborhood or a change just coming down the pipes. There, more often than not, we are actually telling people, well, I'm sorry, we don't feel that this is appropriate. That happens. You guys just typically don't see that because we don't usually take applications that we can't support. So we do have those conversations, especially about the general plan and specifics. So does that kind of answer your question?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I guess one more, and
Sure.
then I'll be quiet. Can you provide some other examples of where the zone change has taken place and what those properties look like?
Like for RNB?
Correct.
Yes. I don't have any pictures here.
I don't need
But,
pictures,
yeah.
just generally, so that the
90s,
public can go out and explore these areas. and
Yeah,
see what
the
they
east side, sorry, the west side of 900 East, from Winchester up to about 5600 South. It's largely those lower scaled buildings that look like residential office buildings. So
And then Winchester along in
Yeah,
between
Winchester-
7th or 9th and State Street on the north side.
yes, definitely.
Zach, could you address Mr. Burns' question a little more? Maybe we did already, but keeping the property the same, and concern about that if you change it, that it'll basically
Sure.
be a catalyst for more changes like this.
Yeah, and kind of, I did slightly address it prior to the comment that it's, I don't anticipate this going any further, mostly because of this hard edge of Winchester. This property touches Winchester for all intents and purposes. You can, I guess there's not a real great picture here, but I'll zoom into this. You can see that this property largely faces onto Winchester. It just so happens that there is a right-of-way that is right here. Otherwise, this whole property would touch Winchester, less so on Maelstrom. And so we do feel that this is a good, hard stopping point for the RMB zone in that area.
Would we have the capability of changing the drive access as the project moves forward?
Again, that kind of depends on who owns that. If it's UDOT, we'll have to work with UDOT on what changes there and what happens there. So it really depends on who, what municipality owns this side specifically. Because if we were to move this, like this access, like further this way, and if it
I
encroaches
think
into
you're talking
UDOT.
about
I'd
access off of Winchester.
Off of Winchester, yes.
Oh, so like here
Yes,
instead. I think it
correct.
actually already has, if I can see, kind of, it looks like
There might be a curb cut there that's just been abandoned.
Maybe not. But we can definitely explore that as well as a different approach. Cut off the approach on Maelstrom and make the stuff come in on. Yeah, it's something that we can look at during a project review.
And then could you talk about what kind of buffering would be required on the west side, or sorry, the east side of the property?
Yeah, so there is I believe there's at least a 10-foot buffer for landscaping buffer from across next to any residential. So there will be a 10-foot buffer. Typically, we require fencing to be installed.
And is that at 6 foot or 8 foot?
6 foot typically, but sometimes
The planning
the
commission,
planning
does have
commission can
discretion.
grant up to 8. Just to the south? Okay, just to the south we can grant 8, I guess. Yes, here, Susan's gonna say.
How our code reads is any property that is not in the general plan to go to R&B. So if its general plan is to stay low density residential, at the back of the property, so the south of this property would have to have a 6-foot solid wall plus 10 feet of buffer landscaping. But the wall is not required on the sides, only the rear.
Is there any discretion for the planning commission on that?
That's in code.
It's
That
in
is
code,
in our
so it's
code, yeah.
codified. Okay.
Well, what does that mean? Because like the future, this is a really deep property, and these two on this other drive, I don't know what that is, but those two ones, only those properties touching Winchester would be future land use designated for R&B. So like, yeah, I mean, I wonder if there would be something you could do to buffer those back side neighbors.
I guess if the planning commission felt that was a mitigating factor,
Yeah.
when it comes in for site plan,
Got it.
You know, that could be
And
entertaining.
I think that's what you meant by discretion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that at a project level, that could be addressed. Definitely. So at a project level, we could address that, but the requirement would be on that south side.
So if the applicant were to come forward with a business application only and not any real change to the property itself,
Mm-hmm.
we really lose the ability to enforce that, and except for on the south side.
It would be a change of use, so it would need to go through.
Because it's going from residential to a commercial.
Yeah,
property.
it would need to go through that review process. Yeah.
Okay.
Here's your person. Yeah.
I just looked up the hours of operation while we were
Okay.
waiting here, and it just says it's 17.140.050, and it says commercial uses shall not be open for business before 7 o'clock a.m. or after 10 o'clock p.m.
Okay. So it's 10 o'clock p.m.
But a lot of professional offices are not going to.
Yeah,
be
they
open at
usually
that
don't.
hour of the day.
Zach, Ms. Evans had a second concern, and you've addressed it, but I think it'd be great to hit on it one more time.
Sure.
The concern was about the height allowances if the current structure is ever torn down. I don't believe any of us in the neighborhood want to be watched over from a tall business building. I know you mentioned the cap, but maybe we can reiterate that one more time.
Yep. So the cap is, so without planning commission approval, is 20 feet. So 20-foot maximum. The planning commission may allow a height up to 30 feet. But I believe there is a condition in there that it cannot be more than 2 stories. So that 30 feet would just mostly be pitch.
Mhm.
So
What's shown on the screen is 5 feet shorter than if it was
then a
already.
single family home. Yep.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's bring it back for if there's discussion amongst the planning commission concerning this application. Okay, seeing none, I think we can entertain a motion if there is one.
I'd like to make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment to the future land use map, redesignating the property located at 97 West Winchester Street from low density residential to residential business.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Patterson. The Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested amendment to the future land use map, redesignated the property located at 97 West Winchester Street from low density residential to residential business. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Hacker. Zach, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Ney,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson. Thank you. I realized I was like, so,
Yes.
and Chair Lowry.
Yes. Okay. So that section that motion has passed. We have a second to consider. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion regarding the request to amend the Murray City zoning map?
I would like to make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation of the property located at 97 West Winchester Street from R18 single family residential to R&B residential neighborhood business.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Patterson that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment of the zoning map designation of the property located at 97 West Winchester Street from R18 to single-family residential to R&B residential neighborhood business as described in the staff report. Is there a second?
I'll second that as well.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Hacker. Zach, will you please do a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Ney,
No, and the reason is I believe that we need to update the buffering clauses in the code.
and Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
and Chair Lowry.
Yes. Okay, this motion has passed as well. I want to thank Mr. Henderson for coming down for application. I want to thank the public for coming in for making comments in person. Thank you for coming down in person, and for those that sent emails. Really appreciate everyone's engagement with this matter. So thank you very much, and welcome to Murray. With that, we will move on to if there's any other business before the Planning Commission.
I think it's important, maybe just, I know this, I was going back to our previous agenda item.
Sure.
We are just forwarding a recommendation. So this is still going to the city council. So you're welcome to go to the city council meeting and voice your concern about, rezoning this.
Thank you for your time. Okay.
Is there any other business?
Just Ms. Patterson.
Okay.
All right.
So I just want to make those on the live stream, those here, aware that the Murray Region PTA is hosting a Meet the Candidates Night. It will be at Murray High School on Monday, October 10th from 6 to 8 p.m. It is an open house style. And we have reached out to all candidates on all ballots. And we've received RSVPs from 30 of those representatives. So we will have people there from, really like I think all of the Senate districts are represented, all of the House of, the Utah House districts are represented. We have at-large positions. We have county council, auditor, school board, state board of education representatives. Will all be there to talk to the public, and they want to be able to talk to the citizens and the people that are voting for them. And so we're hoping that people will come and take advantage of this opportunity to meet all these candidates, which sometimes we just vote and we don't actually know what we're voting for. So we're hoping to be informative. There will be no debates. There will be no speeches. Candidates will just be at their tables, opportunities for people to approach them and ask them questions and talk. So are there any questions about the night?
What are the
Sounds
dates
awesome.
again?
It's Monday, October 10th. So this coming Monday, 6 to 8 p.m. at the high school. So
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for thanks for arranging that.
thanks for the opportunity to mention that.
Great. Well, is there any other
Oh,
business?
can I say one more thing? I'm so sorry. If you want to look at who the candidates are, you can go to murraypta.org. We have a list of everyone that will be there. You can also find it on the school district social media, which is just We Are Murray. So they have a Facebook group, they have Instagram, all of their social media. It's all posted there. If there's a specific candidate that you want to see if they're going to be there, or specific, position or something like that, all of those things are listed on our website. So that's an easy place to go.
Thank
get
you
more
very much.
info.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
I just have a quick comment
Yeah.
before we finish. Travis brought up he wants to change something with the general plan.
With
No,
the
just-
R&B zoning.
just
the R&B zone.
buffering.
Yeah, just the buffer.
Okay, so my question is, I believe as a commission, we have the ability to talk about that and forward a recommendation to do that. So should we not do that? I mean, if you have an idea, I'm just saying we should probably be bringing those up and doing those.
I was curious what specifically about buffering you.
I just felt that the east and the west sides of the property needed to be
this
buffered.
specific one?
Of this specific one,
Mm.
just because, you come in and you build a 60-foot wall in the backyard, but the neighborhood residents, there's 3 houses or 2 houses to the west and a house to the east, including the gentleman that was here.
Mhm.
And, it's a quiet business. It's not a noisy business, but whatever comes in the future after that, now that we've changed this zoning designation, could be an entirely different story. And I think out of respect to the neighbors, this is supposed to be a buffer, and yet we're not including buffers.
I was gonna say I know that you didn't write this report,
Mm-hmm.
but in the past there has been like a depth of property kind of that we've kind of wanted some of those more shallow properties, and I mean obviously what comes is what comes. I think this is actually a really unique
It's a strange piece of
one
property.
that came in. Most of them are like the properties that are to the west that are just those little kind of corner shallow properties. That this is definitely would need some additional maybe conditions on site plans and things like
Sure,
that than
definitely.
other R&B.
I agree.
So you weren't meaning the whole zone.
I think whenever we see properties like this, there has to be something contingent in the code that allows us to
Mhm.
include those additional buffering. And right now we can't do anything with it. He just gets whatever wall along the back property line, and that's the way. And this is going to be 1 or 2% of the projects that come forward for us. This is a very unusual piece of property, but we should have the power to enforce
Well, especially
something.
because he's not. Most of them that have come, some on Winchester have done conversions, but most of them have built new.
Yeah, rebuilds.
rebuilt properties.
Could it be as simple as proposing an amendment to the plan or the code that states that any conversion any zoning change that abuts residential
Requires
would require buffering? No.
Maybe.
Okay.
There's legalese that would have to, because technically you can't put conditions on a rezone.
Okay.
You can't really do. It's a legislative item. You can't do conditions on a legislative item.
But can you make requirements for a particular zone itself?
Yes, we can change the text of the zoning. Yes, and yeah. So I heard you loud and clear. I knew what you were saying. So yeah, we can look at it.
Are there a lot of these? I mean, there's not a lot left to be rezoned as R&B, really.
I mean,
a lot of it, I think,
It's going to be in this general area. Winchester has a few deep. Still has a few deep.
They do have a few.
lots.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually about 3 or 4 properties just to the west of this one that are for sale.
Oh, sorry. I want to make a comment, just a little history on that exact issue. When we originally adopted the R&B zone, we talked about having a buffer wall between R&B and R18, like 9th East. And initially, we did require the buffer wall along the sides in addition to the rear. But then when we started looking at it, we started getting these applications of this little property, then that little property.
Just get little teeth of.
And it would have been a whole row of solid walls the whole way down.
Yeah.
And so that's when we decided to take it off from the sides and just have it at the rear. This might, be different situation. But that's just kind of a little history about
Yeah.
that.
And that
particular
actually
thing,
makes
so-
perfect sense.
That is helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
so, but we can take that into consideration if you
It's-
want to make a motion or
So-
something.
Well,
Well, actually, you can't make a motion.
yeah, it's a tough situation because you mentioned this is a transitory. Yeah, and it's just change is hard.
And this is a spot that needs some change, but not a lot of change. I mean, it's a successful neighborhood to the north and the south. You know, there's some areas that could use some updating, but it's a tough piece of the city that you know, these residents have been there for a very long time, and they're very protective of their neighborhood. He's invested in it, right?
Right. And
He's not going to see much change on his property from what I understand would go into this new zone.
So if somebody, once the property is rezoned R&B and, you know, this applicant leaves and someone else comes in and doesn't want the whatever conversion he's done, if he only does a conversion, then at that point we could implement, like if somebody came in and tore it down and then,
Well,
because it's
even-
already been rezoned.
Well,
right?
even in the conversion, it will have to come through to you guys
Mhm.
to do parking changes, to do site upgrades. So you're going to have that opportunity to look at the fencing at that point too, even for just a basic
Change of
conversion.
use.
Yep.
Okay.
And do we have discretion in the fencing requirements?
Yeah, if it's found that there's an impact that needs to be addressed, for sure.
Perceived or otherwise?
Mhm.
I think separating from this issue, I think my comment is regarding, I guess, any ideas that, you know, if Commissioner Nay has great ideas, I think we should be discussing those, putting them on the agenda for a future meeting.
You just
And
have to let
discussing those.
just let us know if you want us to bring up a discussion item. That way we can agendize it, because we can't do it at the other business side because we have it
Sure.
public. So,
Yeah, sure.
Still want parking structures, the first level to be.
I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm working every day.
See State Street becoming a
and-
giant parking structure.
And I think as a commission, I mean, we don't technically have to have staff write all that for us. You could write it up and we
Propose
could
it.
vote on it and propose it. And I'm not saying we do that because I think staff does a great job. I'm just saying, we can affect change here if we have. I don't have any great change to tell
Right.
you guys we should do, but maybe you do. Maybe we should do it.
Right.
Agreed.
Well noted. And I think that's noted, and I think that appropriately, doing it at the appropriate time and adding discussions items is a terrific suggestion and something would be great to put in practice. Any other items of business for us to consider?
Not from me.
And we can consider a motion to adjourn if there is one.
Motion to adjourn at 7:28.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. All in made by Commissioner Pearson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.